I was sitting in my bedroom reading when Derek walked in with a red gas can. My son had been cold to me for months, but tonight something was different. His eyes were wild, unfocused, like he was looking through me instead of at me. His hands shook as he unscrewed the cap. The smell of gasoline hit me before I could even process what was happening. He started splashing it everywhere, on my curtains, my bed, my dresser, screaming that I had ruined his life and stolen his future. "You'll burn with this house, you miserable old woman," he shouted, and struck a match. The curtains exploded in orange flames. He walked out, and I heard the lock click. His footsteps faded down the stairs. The front door slammed. His car engine roared to life and then faded into the distance. Smoke filled the room, burning my throat and eyes. I couldn't breathe. But Derek didn't know about the small oxygen tank I kept hidden beneath my nightgown, strapped to my body under my loose dress. I had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and that little tank was my lifeline when my breathing got bad. Tonight, it would save my life in ways I never imagined. My name is Robin, and I'm 65 years old. I never thought I would be fighting for my life against my own child, but as the flames climbed my bedroom walls and the smoke grew thicker, I realized that the boy I had raised, the son I had loved and sacrificed everything for, had just tried to murder me. I pulled the oxygen mask from under my dress and pressed it to my face. The clean air rushed into my lungs, clearing my head just enough to think. The fire was spreading fast. The doorway was already blocked by flames. My only way out was the window. I grabbed my wooden cane from beside the bed and swung it hard against the glass. It shattered on the second hit. Cool night air rushed in, feeding the fire behind me, making it roar louder. I knocked out the remaining shards of glass and looked down. I was on the second floor. Below me was the porch roof, slanted and covered in old shingles. Beyond that was a 12-foot drop to the ground. I'm not a young woman. My bones are brittle, my joints ache on good days, and I hadn't climbed anything in 20 years. But I climbed out that window. I had no choice. The heat behind me was unbearable. I got one leg over the sill, then the other, moving slowly, carefully. My hands gripped the window frame. I lowered myself down, feeling for the porch roof with my feet. When my shoes touched the shingles, I let go. I slipped immediately. The roof was steeper than I remembered. I slid down on my back, unable to stop myself, until my feet hit the gutter. It bent under my weight, but held. I rolled onto my stomach and crawled to the edge, where the old wooden trellis attached to the side of the house. My late husband had built it 30 years ago for my climbing roses. "Please let it hold," I prayed. I turned around, gripped the trellis, and started down. My arms shook. My hands were slick with sweat. Halfway down, my foot slipped, and I fell the last 4 feet, landing hard on my side in the flower bed. Pain shot through my ankle. I bit down on my lip to keep from screaming. I couldn't make noise. Not yet. I needed to see what Derek would do next. I pulled myself up using the wall and limped across the yard. My right ankle was swelling already, probably sprained. Every step was agony. I made it to the hedge that separated my property from the neighbors and squeezed myself into the shadows. From there, I had a clear view of my house. Flames filled the upstairs windows now. Smoke poured out into the night sky. And I waited. 20 minutes passed. My house burned. I watched everything I owned turn to ash and ember. The heat was intense, even from where I hid 30 feet away. I kept the oxygen mask pressed to my face, breathing slowly, trying to stay calm. My ankle throbbed. My whole body hurt from the fall. But I was alive. That was more than Derek had planned. Then I heard it. A car engine. Headlights swept down my street. Derek's silver sedan pulled up to the curb in front of my burning house. The doors flew open. Derek jumped out, and behind him came his wife Amanda and their 2 teenage children, Tyler and Brianna. They were all in pajamas and robes, like they had just been woken up. Derek started running toward the house, shouting, "Mom! Mom! Oh God, no!" His voice was panicked, desperate. He sounded like a terrified son who had just discovered his mother's house on fire. But I had heard that same voice 20 minutes ago, cold and hateful, telling me I would burn. Amanda had her phone out, calling 911. I could hear her from where I hid. Yes, there's a fire. My mother-in-law's house. She's inside. Please hurry." She was crying, real tears. Tyler and Brianna stood on the lawn, holding each other, looking shocked and scared. They had no idea what their father had done. None of them did. Except Derek. He was quite the actor. He tried to run toward the front door, but the heat drove him back. He fell to his knees on the lawn, hands over his face, shoulders shaking like he was sobbing. A neighbor from across the street came running over, then another. They surrounded Derek, comforting him, holding him back from the flames. Within 5 minutes, I heard the sirens. Fire trucks came roaring down the street, lights flashing red and blue. Firefighters jumped out and started unrolling hoses. One of them approached Derek, asking questions. Derek pointed up at my bedroom window. "That's her room. She's up there. She's 65. She has breathing problems. Please, you have to get her out." The firefighters moved fast. They poured water on the flames, sent a team inside with breathing equipment. I watched them disappear into the smoke. They were looking for my body. Derek stood there with his family, surrounded by neighbors, playing the role of the devastated son. He looked at the upstairs window, at the flames, and I saw it, just for a second, a flicker of satisfaction on his face. Then it was gone, replaced by manufactured grief. 15 minutes later, a firefighter came back out and approached Derek. He shook his head. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw Derek's face change. Confusion, then fear. The firefighter was telling him they couldn't find me. They had searched the bedroom, the hallway, the whole upstairs. No body, no sign of anyone. Derek's face went white. His mouth opened. "Where is she?" he asked. His voice was too loud, too sharp. Where could she be? Amanda grabbed his arm. "Maybe she went out earlier? Maybe she wasn't home?" Derek shook his head quickly. No, her car is in the driveway. She was home. She had to be home." His eyes darted around the yard, scanning the shadows. For a moment, his gaze passed right over the hedge where I hid. I held my breath, but he looked away. A police officer arrived, started asking questions. Derek told him what time they got the call from the neighbor, how fast they drove over, how his mother lived alone since his father died 5 years ago. The officer took notes. He asked if there was any reason someone might have started the fire deliberately. Derek shook his head firmly. No. My mother probably left the stove on. She's been forgetful lately. Or maybe something electrical. Old house, old wiring. He was already building his cover story, already explaining away the arson, but he couldn't explain where I was, and I could see the panic growing in him. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Amanda noticed, wrapped her arms around him, thinking he was just distraught. But I knew better. He was terrified because his plan had failed. I wasn't dead. I was somewhere out there, and he had no idea where. The firefighters got the blaze under control after 40 minutes. My house was a smoking ruin. The entire second floor was gone, collapsed into the first. The walls were blackened. The roof had caved in. Everything inside was destroyed. My photographs, my furniture, my clothes, my memories, 65 years of life turned to ash. But I was alive, and I had seen everything. I knew what Derek had done. I knew he had brought his family here to create an alibi, to look like the innocent son who discovered the tragedy. I knew he had expected to find my charred body in the rubble. Instead, I was gone, and now he had to wonder if I would come forward, if I would tell the truth. I waited until the fire trucks left, until the police cars drove away, until Derek and his family got back in their car and disappeared down the street. Then I limped out from my hiding place. My neighbor, 3 doors down, the Hendersons, had their lights on. I made my way slowly across the lawns, dragging my injured ankle, still wearing the oxygen mask. When I rang their doorbell, Sarah Henderson opened the door and screamed, "Robin! Oh my God! We thought you were dead!" She pulled me inside, sat me down, called 911 again. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived. The paramedics checked me over, saw the smoke damage to my lungs, the swelling in my ankle, the cuts on my hands from the broken window. They loaded me onto a stretcher. As they pushed me toward the ambulance, I looked back at my destroyed house one more time. Derek had tried to erase me, but I was still here, and now I was going to fight back. The emergency room at County General was bright and cold. They put me in a bed, hooked me up to monitors, gave me oxygen through a proper hospital mask. A doctor examined my ankle, said it was a bad sprain but not broken. They x-rayed my chest, checked my lungs. I had moderate smoke inhalation despite the portable oxygen tank. The doctor said I was lucky. Another few minutes in that room and I wouldn't have made it. A nurse cleaned the cuts on my hands and wrapped them in gauze. Another nurse brought me a hospital gown and helped me change. My clothes smelled like gasoline and smoke. They sealed them in a plastic bag for evidence. That's when the police arrived. Detective Martha Green was a tall woman in her 40s with short brown hair and tired eyes. She sat down beside my bed and pulled out a notepad. "Mrs. Turner, I'm so sorry about your home. Can you tell me what happened tonight?" I told her everything. How Derek came into my room with the gas can. How he poured gasoline everywhere. How he said I would burn with the house. How he lit the match and locked the door. How I heard his car drive away. How I escaped using my oxygen tank and climbed out the window. How he came back 20 minutes later with his family, pretending to discover the fire. Detective Green wrote it all down. Her expression was serious, sympathetic. When I finished, she asked, "Do you know why your son would want to hurt you?" I shook my head. I had been thinking about that same question for 2 hours. We haven't been close lately. He's been distant, cold, but I never thought he would try to kill me. The detective nodded. "We'll investigate this thoroughly, Mrs. Turner. I promise you." She stood up, squeezed my hand gently. "Try to rest. We'll talk more tomorrow." But I couldn't rest. My mind was spinning. Why had Derek done this? What had I done to make him hate me enough to burn me alive? I lay there in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand. Then I heard voices in the hallway. Loud, urgent voices. One of them was Derek. "Where is she? Is she okay?" "Oh, thank God she's alive." The door burst open. Derek rushed in, Amanda right behind him, with Tyler and Brianna trailing nervously. Derek's eyes were red like he had been crying. He ran to my bedside and grabbed my hand. "Mom! Oh, Mom! I was so scared. When the firefighters said they couldn't find you, I thought." He choked on his words, buried his face against my arm. His shoulders shook. To anyone watching, He looked like a loving son, overcome with relief. But I felt his fingers tighten around my wrist. Hard. Too hard. It hurt. I tried to pull away, but he held on. When he lifted his face, his eyes met mine for just a second. They were cold, empty, threatening. Then he turned to Amanda and the kids, and the warmth flooded back into his expression. "She's okay. She's going to be okay." Amanda hugged me carefully, mindful of the IV line in my arm. "I'm so glad you're safe, Robin. We were terrified." Tyler and Brianna stood at the foot of the bed, looking uncomfortable. They mumbled their relief, but neither met my eyes. Something was wrong with them, too. They seemed nervous, guilty almost. Detective Green appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Turner, I need to ask you some questions." Derek turned, still holding my hand. "Of course, Detective. Anything to help." They stepped out into the hallway, but they didn't go far. I could hear every word through the thin door. "Where were you tonight when the fire started?" "At home with my family. We were all asleep. Our neighbor called around 11:30, said there was smoke coming from my mother's house. We drove over as fast as we could. It's about a 30-minute drive from our place." "Can anyone verify that you were home?" "My wife and children. We were all there." Detective Green's voice was measured, professional. "Your mother says someone deliberately set the fire, that someone poured gasoline in her room and lit it while she was inside." There was a pause. Then Derek's voice, shocked and hurt. "What? No. No, that's not possible. Who would do that?" "She says it was you." Another pause. Longer this time. When Derek spoke again, his voice was quieter, sad. "Detective, my mother has been having some difficulties lately. Memory problems, confusion. It's been getting worse over the past year. We've been worried about her living alone, but she refused to move in with us or go to a care facility. Maybe she's confused about what happened. Maybe she saw someone and thought it was me. Or maybe the trauma has mixed up her memories." I felt my stomach drop. He was calling me senile, unreliable. The detective asked, "Has she been diagnosed with any cognitive issues?" "Not officially, but we've noticed the signs. She forgets conversations, loses things, sometimes doesn't recognize where she is. Amanda and I have been trying to get her to see a doctor, but she refuses. It was a lie, all of it. I had no memory problems. My mind was sharp, but Derek was painting a picture of a confused old woman whose testimony couldn't be trusted." They came back into the room. Derek returned to my bedside, his expression full of concern. "Mom, the detective told me what you said, about someone starting the fire. I know you're confused and scared, but there's no one trying to hurt you. You're safe now. We'll figure out what happened." I opened my mouth to argue, to tell him he was lying. But the doctor walked in before I could speak. He looked at my chart, then at Detective Green. "Mrs. Turner needs rest. She has significant smoke inhalation, and her oxygen levels were critically low when she arrived. We need to monitor her for at least 48 hours to make sure there's no delayed respiratory damage." The detective nodded. "I'll come back tomorrow to continue our investigation." She gave me a reassuring look. "Rest, Mrs. Turner." After she left, Derek stayed. He sat in the chair beside my bed, holding my hand in both of his, playing the devoted son for the nurses who came in and out. Amanda and the kids went to get coffee. When we were alone, Derek leaned close. His voice was barely a whisper. "No one will believe you. You're a confused old woman who barely escaped a house fire. You're traumatized. Your memory is unreliable. I have my wife and children backing up my alibi. We were home, 30 minutes away, all asleep. The neighbors saw us arrive after the fire started. Everything points to an accident. Maybe you left the stove on. Maybe you knocked over a gas can in the garage earlier and didn't remember. It doesn't matter. What matters is there's no proof. And even if you keep saying it was me, everyone will just think you're a sad, mentally declining woman looking for someone to blame." He patted my hand and smiled. "The house is gone. Everything you owned is ashes. You have nothing left. No home, no belongings, nothing. You'll have to depend on me now, won't you? And I'll take such good care of you, Mom. I promise." Then Amanda and the kids came back, and Derek transformed again into the loving, concerned son. I lay there, helpless, realizing that he was right. Who would believe me? A 65-year-old woman with no evidence except her own word against her son's alibi. He had thought of everything, and I had nothing. I stayed in the hospital for 4 days. The doctors wanted to make sure my lungs were recovering properly. Derek visited every single day, sometimes twice a day. He brought flowers, magazines, a tablet so I could watch shows. He fluffed my pillows and asked the nurses if I was being taken care of properly. To everyone on the medical staff, he was the perfect son. When we were alone, he reminded me of my situation. You have nowhere to go when they discharge you. Your house is gone. Your insurance claim will take months to process. What will you do? Where will you live? I had been thinking about exactly that. I couldn't stay with Derek. That much was clear. But where else could I go? I had friends. Surely one of them would take me in temporarily. On the 3rd day, the fire investigator came to see me. His name was Paul Garrett, a serious man in his 50s with silver hair and a thick mustache. He sat down and explained what his team had found in the ruins of my house. The fire started in multiple locations on the 2nd floor. Specifically, your bedroom, the hallway, and the bathroom. We found evidence of accelerant, gasoline. So it was arson. He nodded slowly. It appears that way. But here's where it gets complicated, Mrs. Turner. Your son mentioned that you had a gas can in your garage, that you sometimes did yard work, filled the lawnmower. Is that accurate? I frowned. Yes, I kept gas for the mower. But I didn't use it that night. I didn't go anywhere near the garage. The thing is, Mr. Garrett continued, we can't determine definitively if the gasoline was intentionally spread for the purpose of starting a fire, or if it was accidentally spilled earlier in the day. Your son suggested you might have been filling the mower and spilled some on your clothes, tracked it into the house without realizing. Then later, some kind of spark or ember from the fireplace or stove could have ignited it. That's ridiculous. I didn't use the mower. It's October. The grass stopped growing a month ago. Mr. Garrett made a note. We're still investigating, but without witnesses or clear evidence of intent, it's difficult to prove arson versus accidental fire. The police are aware of your accusation against your son, but he has a solid alibi. Multiple witnesses place him at his home, 30 minutes away, at the time the fire started. I felt the walls closing in. He's lying. His witnesses are lying. He tried to kill me. The investigator's expression was kind but skeptical. I understand you've been through a trauma, Mrs. Turner. These things can be confusing. We'll keep investigating. But right now, there's insufficient evidence to file criminal charges against anyone. After he left, I lay there feeling defeated. Derek had covered his tracks perfectly. No witnesses, a built-in excuse for the gasoline, an airtight alibi. And me, a supposedly confused elderly woman with no proof. On the 4th day, the doctor said I could be discharged. My lungs were improving. My ankle was healing. A social worker came to discuss my housing situation. I told her I would stay with a friend. She asked for the friend's name and contact information. I gave her Carol's number. Carol had been my friend for 30 years. Surely she would help me. The social worker called Carol right there in my room. I listened as she explained the situation. There was a long pause. Then the social worker's expression changed. She thanked Carol and hung up. "Mrs. Turner, your friend says she's very sorry, but her daughter is visiting from out of state for the next month. She doesn't have room for a house guest right now." My chest tightened. What about Diane? She's another close friend. The social worker called Diane. Same result. Diane had just had hip surgery. She couldn't help someone else when she could barely take care of herself. I tried to think of other friends, but realized with growing horror that most of them had drifted away over the past 2 years. I had stopped getting invitations to book club, to lunch dates, to church events. At the time, I thought people were just busy. Now I wondered if Derek had something to do with it. Had he been isolating me? Telling my friends I was declining, that I didn't want visitors? The social worker suggested a temporary stay at a senior living facility until I could figure out permanent housing. I started to agree, but then Derek walked in. He had papers in his hand. "Mom, you don't need to go to some facility. You can stay with us. Amanda and I have plenty of room. We want to take care of you." I shook my head quickly. "No, I'm not staying with you." He sat down, his face full of false concern. "Mom, I know you're upset. I know you think I had something to do with the fire, but I promise you, I didn't. I love you. You're my mother. I would never hurt you. Please, let me help you." The social worker looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Turner, do you have any other family who could help? My daughter lives in Australia. She has her own family. I couldn't ask her to uproot her life for me." Derek spoke up again. He pulled out the papers he was carrying. "Actually, there's something we need to discuss. Mom, do you remember signing a power of attorney document 6 months ago?" I stared at him. "What? No, I never signed anything like that." He unfolded the papers and showed them to the social worker. "It's dated 6 months ago. My mother gave me power of attorney to help manage her affairs. She was having some cognitive difficulties and wanted to make sure someone could help her with medical and financial decisions if she became unable to make them herself." I looked at the document. There was my signature at the bottom, but I had no memory of signing it. None at all. That's not possible. I never signed that. Derek's expression was patient, understanding. "Mom, you don't remember a lot of things lately. That's why we set up the POA in the first place. You were having a good day. You understood what it meant. And you signed it with your attorney present." "What attorney? I don't even have an attorney." "Mr. Henderson, from Henderson and Associates. Remember? We went to his office together." The social worker examined the document. "It looks legitimate, notarized and everything. With this, Mr. Turner has the legal authority to make decisions on your behalf, if you're deemed unable to do so yourself." I felt panic rising in my chest. He forged it, or he tricked me somehow. I would never give him that kind of power. But the signature was mine. I could see that. The handwriting was identical to mine. Had I signed it? Was my memory really that bad? No, I would remember something that important. But doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if I was as confused as Derek kept saying? Derek used the POA to access my bank accounts. He said he needed to manage my finances now that my house was gone, to make sure bills got paid and my affairs were in order. The hospital's social worker helped him set it up. Within 2 days, Derek had full access to everything. I asked to see my account statements. When they arrived, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. My savings account, which had contained $47,000, now had less than $3,000. I demanded to know where the money went. Derek showed me receipts. "House maintenance," he said. "New roof last year, plumbing repairs, the furnace replacement. Mom, you kept telling me things were breaking. I paid for the repairs. And you said you'd pay me back. Don't you remember?" I didn't remember. None of it. But there were the receipts, all signed by contractors I had supposedly hired. Was I really that forgetful? Or was Derek lying? I couldn't tell anymore what was real and what was manipulation. The insurance payout for my house would be $200,000. Derek said he would help me manage it, make sure I had enough to live on. But with the POA, he technically had control over it. He could access the money before I ever saw a penny. I was trapped. No home, no money, no friends willing to help. A son with legal control over my life who had already tried to kill me once. And worst of all, I was starting to doubt my own mind. Maybe I was confused. Maybe my memory was failing. Maybe Derek was right about everything. He offered again to let me stay with his family. This time, too exhausted and defeated to fight, I said yes. I lasted 3 days at Derek's house. It was a beautiful home in a nice suburb, 4 bedrooms, a big backyard. Amanda tried to be welcoming. She set me up in their guest room, brought me meals, asked if I needed anything, but Derek was always there, watching me, controlling everything I did. He took my phone, said it was being upgraded. He took my purse, said he was organizing my important documents. He accompanied me everywhere, even to the bathroom. He said he was worried I might fall, but I knew the truth. He was making sure I couldn't call anyone or tell anyone what he had done. On the 3rd night, Derek sat me down at the kitchen table. "Mom, Amanda and I have been talking. This living situation isn't working out. You need more care than we can provide. We think it would be best if you move to a facility where professionals can look after you." I felt my blood run cold. "You mean a nursing home?" "A senior care community," he corrected. "Meadowbrook Senior Care. It's very nice. I've already arranged everything." The next morning, he drove me to Meadowbrook. It was not nice. The building was old and shabby, the paint peeling on the outside walls. Inside, it smelled like urine and boiled vegetables. The staff looked tired and overworked. Residents sat in wheelchairs in the hallways, staring at nothing. Some were calling out for help that no one answered. Derek signed the paperwork using his power of attorney. I tried to protest, but the administrator just smiled sympathetically and said, "It's for the best, dear. You'll be safe here." They put me in a shared room with a woman named Gladys, who screamed in her sleep. The room was tiny, with 2 narrow beds, 2 small dressers, and a single window that looked out at the parking lot. This was my new home. Derek visited the next day. When we were alone, he leaned close and whispered, "This is temporary, Mom. Just until we find you a nice apartment. You'll cooperate, won't you? You'll be a good patient?" I had no choice. I stayed. I ate the terrible food, endured Gladys's nighttime screaming, and tried to figure out how to get out. I asked to use the phone at the nurses' station. I wanted to call the police, tell Detective Green where I was. But the nurse on duty shook her head. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Turner. Your son left instructions that all your phone calls need to be supervised for your own safety." "Supervised? I'm not allowed to make a private phone call? You've been making some concerning accusations, dear. Your son is worried you might say things that aren't true and get yourself in trouble. He's just looking out for you." So Derek had told them I made false accusations. They thought I was delusional. Every time I tried to tell a staff member that I didn't belong here, that my son had tried to kill me, They just nodded and patted my hand like I was a confused child. A week passed. Then Derek came back with more papers. He spread them out on the little table in the common room. "Mom, I need you to sign these. It's just some estate planning documents. We're transferring the property where your house was into my name. That way, when the insurance money comes through, it will all be easier to manage." I refused. "I'm not signing anything." His expression hardened. "Mom, you don't have a choice. I have power of attorney. I can sign these documents on your behalf if I need to. I'm giving you the courtesy of signing them yourself, but either way, it's happening." "Then why ask me at all?" "Because I want you to understand this is for your own good. You can't manage your affairs anymore. You need me to do it for you." I pushed the papers away. "Get out." He gathered them up, perfectly calm. "Fine. I'll handle it myself. And Mom? The doctor here thinks you need to be on some medication for your anxiety and confusion. They're starting you on it tomorrow." The next night, a nurse came in with a small paper cup containing 3 pills. She said they were for anxiety, depression, and to help me sleep. I didn't want to take them, but she stood there waiting until I swallowed them. 20 minutes later, the room started spinning. I felt dizzy, disconnected, like I was floating above my own body. My thoughts became slow and muddy. I couldn't focus on anything. This became my new routine. 3 times a day they gave me pills. I spent most of my time in a fog, barely aware of what was happening around me. Days blurred together. I lost track of time. Sometimes I would find myself sitting in the common room with no memory of how I got there. Other times I would wake up in my bed in the middle of the day, having lost hours. Derek visited regularly during this time. He always came when I was heavily sedated. He would sit beside me, hold my hand, and talk to me in a soft voice. "You're doing so well, Mom. You're much calmer now. This is what's best for you." One afternoon, when I was particularly out of it, I felt him lift my hand. He pressed my thumb against something, then again, and again. Through the fog in my brain, I realized he was making me sign documents with my thumbprint. I tried to pull away, but my body wouldn't respond. The medication had made me weak, compliant, unable to resist. When the medication wore off a few hours later, I demanded to know what he had done. A nurse finally told me, "Your son finalized the property transfer. The land where your house was is now legally his. The insurance payout went into his account. He's managing everything for you, dear. Isn't that nice?" I had lost everything. My home, my land, my savings, my insurance money. Derek had stolen it all, and he had used my drugged, incapacitated state to do it. I tried to tell the staff that he had done this against my will, but they just increased my medication. They said I was becoming agitated and paranoid. 3 weeks into my stay at Meadowbrook, I had given up hope. I spent my days in the medicated fog, unable to think clearly, unable to fight back. Derek had won. He had tried to burn me alive, and when that failed, he had imprisoned me in this awful place and stolen everything I owned. I had nothing left. I was nothing. Just a drugged old woman waiting to die. Then a new nurse started working the evening shift. Her name was Patricia, and she was different from the others. She was younger, probably in her 30s, with kind eyes and a gentle manner. She actually talked to the residents, like they were people instead of children. One evening, Patricia came in to give me my medication. She handed me the paper cup with the 3 pills. I took them automatically, had already lifted them to my mouth, when she said quietly, "You don't have to take those if you don't want to." I stared at her. "What?" She glanced at the door, then back at me. I've been reading your file. The dosage you're on is very high. Too high, in my opinion. It's enough to keep you sedated most of the day. Your son requested it, but I'm not sure it's medically necessary. My son is trying to keep me quiet. Patricia nodded slowly. I suspected as much. Do you want to tell me what's really going on? For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. I told her everything. About the fire, Derek's attempt to kill me, how he had stolen my money and trapped me here. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. I believe you, she finally said. But I can't just stop giving you the medication without a doctor's order. That could get me fired and wouldn't help you at all. However, she picked up the paper cup with the pills. I could accidentally spill these, and if I did, I couldn't give you replacements until the next scheduled dose. That would give you at least 8 hours with a clear head. She tipped the cup. The pills fell into the trash can beside my bed. Thank you, I whispered. Over the next few days, Patricia accidentally spilled my medication several times. My head began to clear. The fog lifted. I could think again, plan again, but I still had no way out. I was locked in this facility. My phone calls were monitored. I had no money, no identification, no way to leave, even if I could get past the locked doors. I need to get to my bank, I told Patricia one evening. I have a safety deposit box. There are things in it that could help me, but I need to get there. Patricia thought for a moment. I work the 3 to 11 shift. There's a shift change at 3, and sometimes it gets chaotic. If you were ready to go at that time, if I happen to leave a side door unlocked, and if I happen to be taking my break in the parking lot with my car running, well, I couldn't be held responsible for what happened. 2 days later, Patricia smuggled me out of Meadowbrook. She drove me straight to First National Bank. I still had the key to my safety deposit box hidden in the locket I wore around my neck. It was the only thing Derek hadn't taken from me. The bank manager remembered me. She looked surprised to see me but didn't ask questions. She let me into the vault. I opened my safety deposit box with shaking hands. Inside were copies of my original will, the real property deeds, bank statements from before Derek started stealing from me, and most importantly, a small camera. I had bought it 4 months ago, when I started noticing money missing from my purse. I had hidden it in my bedroom, pointed at my dresser where I kept my important papers. I had forgotten all about it until now. Please, let it still have the footage, I prayed. Patricia drove me straight to the police station. We asked for Detective Green. When she came out to meet us, I handed her the camera. This was hidden in my bedroom. It recorded everything for the past 4 months, including the night Derek tried to kill me. The detective took the camera to her office. Patricia and I waited in a small conference room for what felt like hours. Finally, Detective Green came back. Her face was grim. Mrs. Turner, the footage shows your son entering your room multiple times over the past months. We can see him going through your papers, your dresser drawers. It's clear he was looking for something. However, the night of the fire, the camera angle is wrong. We can hear audio, Derek shouting threats, the sound of liquid being poured, a match striking, but we can't see his face. We can't definitively prove it was him in the video. A defense attorney could argue it was someone else, that the voice isn't clear enough for positive identification. But you can hear him threatening me. Voice identification isn't always reliable in court, and without a clear video of his face, we don't have enough for an arrest warrant. I'm sorry. We need more evidence. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Even with the camera, it wasn't enough. How much more evidence do you need? Something concrete. A confession. A witness. something that directly links him to the crime beyond reasonable doubt. We left the police station. Patricia drove me back toward Meadowbrook. I was shaking, on the verge of tears. I had been so sure the camera would be enough. But Derek had won again. He always won. Then I noticed a silver sedan parked across the street from the police station. Derek's car. He had followed us. He knew I had gotten out. He knew I had gone to the police. And he knew I had failed to stop him. Patricia saw the car, too. She drove faster, taking side streets, trying to lose him. But the silver sedan stayed behind us. When we got back to Meadowbrook, Patricia rushed me inside through the side door. The facility administrator was waiting, looking angry. Patricia tried to explain, but the administrator cut her off. "This is completely unacceptable. Mrs. Turner is a resident in our care. You had no authority to take her off the premises." That evening, Derek came to visit. He brought me chocolate pudding, my favorite flavor. Such a thoughtful son. He sat down beside my bed and opened the container. "Here, Mom. I brought you a treat. I'm not hungry. Come on. You need to eat. You're getting too thin." He scooped up a spoonful and held it toward my mouth. I turned my head away. I said, "I'm not hungry." His expression darkened. "Eat it." "No." He grabbed my chin, tried to force the spoon into my mouth. I knocked it away. The pudding splattered across the floor. Derek stood up, his face twisted with rage. He grabbed my throat with both hands. "You should have died in that fire. I gave you a second chance by putting you in here, keeping you quiet. But you couldn't leave it alone. You had to go to the police. You had to try to ruin me. I'll finish this now. I should have done it this way from the start." His fingers squeezed. I couldn't breathe. I clawed at his hands, tried to scream, but no sound came out. Black spots appeared in my vision. This is it, I thought. This is how I die. The door flew open. Patricia stood there, her eyes wide with horror. "Let her go!" she screamed. Derek released me immediately. I collapsed against the pillows, gasping, my throat burning. Derek turned to Patricia, his expression instantly transforming into concern. "She attacked me. She's having another episode. I was just trying to defend myself." Patricia looked at the red marks on my neck, at the pudding on the floor, at Derek's flushed face. She didn't believe him. But the security guard who came running in did. Derek told him the same story. Robin became violent and confused. He had to restrain her for his own safety. The guard believed him because Derek was calm and I was hysterical, still coughing and crying. The facility administrator arrived. After hearing Derek's version of events, she made a decision. Mrs. Turner needs to be moved to our secure memory care unit, for her own safety and the safety of others. Within an hour, I was transferred to a locked ward. It was essentially a prison. My room door locked from the outside. I couldn't leave without staff escort. There was no phone, no access to the common areas, just my small room with a bed, a chair, and a tiny bathroom, a window with bars on it. Derek came to say goodbye before he left that night. He stood in the doorway, just out of reach of the cameras, and smiled at me. "I win, Mom. You're never getting out of here." I spent 5 days in that locked room. Staff came 3 times a day with meals and medication. I pretended to take the pills, hiding them under my tongue and spitting them out later. I needed my mind clear. But even with a clear head, I saw no way out. I was trapped in a locked facility with no phone, no visitors except Derek allowed, and no way to reach anyone who could help me. Derek visited every day. He would stand in my doorway and update me on his plans. "In 3 days, I'm filing papers to have you declared legally incompetent. Judge Harrison is a golf buddy of mine." He'll sign off on it. Once that happens, you'll never have any rights again. I'll control everything. You'll spend the rest of your life in here, Mom. And when you finally die, everything you ever owned will be mine. It's what should have happened from the start." On the 5th night, Patricia appeared at my door. She wasn't supposed to be working in the memory care unit, but somehow she had gotten in. She slipped inside my room and handed me something. A prepaid cell phone, small and cheap. "I smuggled this in for you. It's fully charged. Hide it." I took it with shaking hands. "Thank you. Why are you helping me?" "Because what's happening to you is wrong. And because I have a grandmother your age. If someone did this to her, I would hope a stranger would help her too." After Patricia left, I waited until midnight. Then I called Detective Green. I explained where I was, what had happened. "I'm being held here against my will. Derek tried to strangle me. He's stolen everything from me. Please, you have to help me." The detective's voice was sympathetic but cautious. "Mrs. Turner, I believe you. But Derek has legal power of attorney. The facility administrator says you're there for your own safety. Without probable cause, I can't just remove you from a care facility." "Then what can I do?" "Get evidence. If you can record Derek confessing to starting the fire, to stealing your money, anything concrete, then I can act." "How am I supposed to do that? He won't confess to anything." "People confess when they think they've won, when they feel safe, when they want to gloat. You need to make him think he's beaten you completely." I thought about that after we hung up. Make him think he's won. Let him gloat. Record his confession. It was the only way. The next day when Derek visited, I tried something different. Instead of arguing or staying silent, I broke down. I cried. I begged. "You win, Derek. Please, I can't take this anymore. I'll sign whatever you want. Just let me out of this room. Put me somewhere, anywhere that's not locked. I don't even need to leave the facility. Just not this room. Please." Derek looked suspicious. "You're giving up? I don't have any fight left. You were right. I have nothing. No money, no home, no power. You control everything. I'll do whatever you say. Just please, show me some mercy." He studied my face for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "If you cooperate, if you sign the competency papers without fighting, then yes, I'll move you to a regular room. I'll even arrange for you to go to a nicer facility, somewhere with gardens and better food. I'll do it. I'll sign anything. Just please, I need hope. I need something to hope for." Derek smiled. It was a cruel smile. "Tomorrow I'm bringing the papers. You'll sign them in front of witnesses. And Mom, after you do, after everything is legally settled and you can never challenge it, I'm going to tell you the truth about everything. Would you like that? Would you like to know why I did all this?" "Yes," I whispered. "Good. Tomorrow then." After he left, I took out the hidden phone and set it to record. I tested the audio. It was clear enough. Tomorrow, when Derek came back, I would get my confession. Derek arrived the next afternoon with 2 staff members as witnesses. He spread out the papers on the small table in my room. "These documents declare you mentally incompetent and transfer all remaining legal authority to me. Sign here, and here, and here." I signed. My hand shook, but I signed. The witnesses watched, then signed their own names. It was done. Derek legally owned everything now. I had no rights, no power, no ability to challenge him ever again. The staff members left. Derek sat down across from me, looking satisfied. The phone was in my pocket, recording. I prayed he wouldn't notice. "Now," Derek said, "I'll tell you why I did all this. You asked if you did something wrong. You did. You were going to change your will. What? I saw the papers on your desk, 2 months before the fire. You were leaving everything to some animal shelter. Everything. The house, the property, your savings. I would get nothing. After everything I did for you, after being your son for 43 years, you were going to give it all to some stupid dogs and cats. I was stunned. That's why? Because I was leaving money to charity? That money is mine. I'm your son. It should come to me. Derek, you have a good job. You have money of your own. I wanted to help animals that had no one. His face flushed red. You wanted to humiliate me, to show me that I wasn't worth anything to you. Well, I fixed that. The fire was supposed to solve everything. Insurance money, property inheritance, no one to challenge me. But you escaped, so I had to do it the hard way. Drain your accounts, get the power of attorney, take the property, steal the insurance money, lock you up where no one would believe you. It took longer, but I got what I wanted in the end. You tried to kill me for money. Yes. And if you had just died like you were supposed to, it would have been so much easier. But you made me work for it, Mom. You made me really work for it. And now? I asked quietly. What happens now? Derek leaned forward, his voice dropping. Now? Tomorrow morning the nurse will give you your medication, but it will be a special dose. Too much sedative, just a little accident. At your age, with your health problems, these things happen. You'll just slip away in your sleep. No one will question it. And I'll cry at your funeral, and everyone will think I'm the devoted son who did his best. The door opened. Detective Martha Green walked in, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Derek's head whipped around, his face going pale. Derek Turner, you're under arrest for attempted murder, arson, elder abuse, theft, fraud, and conspiracy. The detective nodded at me. We heard everything, Mrs. Turner. We've been listening from the hallway. Derek stood up quickly. You can't. That recording is illegal. It won't hold up. Actually, Detective Green said, pulling out handcuffs. Your mother was recording you with her consent, in her own room. Perfectly legal. And we have a witness, too. Patricia, the nurse who was in the hallway with us, heard you confess to trying to kill your mother. Patricia stepped into view behind the detective. Her face was set and determined. Derek looked at me, his expression full of rage and disbelief. You set me up. I stood up slowly, my legs shaky, but my voice strong. You tried to burn me alive. You stole everything I owned. You locked me in this prison. All I did was survive and fight back. That's not a setup. That's justice. They took Derek away in handcuffs. As the officers led him down the hallway, he was still protesting, still insisting his lawyers would get him out. But I knew the truth. He was finished, and I was free. Derek was held without bail after the judge heard the recording and Patricia's testimony. His expensive attorney, Lawrence Hartfield, tried to get the charges reduced. He argued that the recording shouldn't be admissible, that Derek was just venting frustration and didn't mean the things he said. But the prosecutor brought a strong case. The evidence was overwhelming. The trial happened 6 weeks later. I sat in the courtroom every single day, watching Derek squirm in his seat. His attorney painted him as a stressed son trying to care for a difficult mother with declining mental health. He claimed the fire was an accident that Derek had no part in. He said the money Derek took was for legitimate expenses. He even suggested that I was a manipulative woman who had staged everything to make Derek look bad. But the prosecution was better. They brought in the fire investigator, who testified that the fire was deliberately set with gasoline accelerant in multiple places. That wasn't an accident. They showed the bank records, proving Derek had systematically drained my accounts over 8 months. taking out cash withdrawals that never went toward any house repairs. They brought in a medical expert who testified that the medication levels I was given at Meadowbrook were far higher than medically necessary for someone with my condition. I was being deliberately oversedated. Patricia took the stand and described in detail what she had witnessed: Derek's hands around my throat, his cold confession in my room, his plan to overdose me the next morning. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. Then they played the recording. Derek's voice filled the courtroom, bragging about starting the fire, about stealing my money, about planning to kill me with an overdose. The jury sat in stunned silence. But the most damaging testimony came from an unexpected source. Tyler, Derek's 16-year-old son, asked to speak to the prosecutor privately. Then he took the stand. The prosecutor asked him about the night of the fire. Tyler's hands gripped the edge of the witness box. His voice was barely above a whisper. My dad picked us up that night. Me and my sister. We weren't home, like he said. We were at my friend's house. Dad came and got us around 11:30. He told us there had been a fire at Grandma's house. He made us promise to tell everyone. We had been home all night, asleep. He said if we didn't, he would be in trouble, and it would ruin the family. Why did you lie for him? The prosecutor asked gently. Because he's my dad. Because I was scared. But I can't do it anymore. My grandmother almost died. She doesn't deserve what happened to her. Tyler looked at Derek, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Dad, but what you did was wrong. Derek's face was white as paper. His attorney tried to object, tried to call Tyler's testimony unreliable, but it was too late. The jury had heard everything. They deliberated for 3 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder, arson, elder abuse, theft, fraud, conspiracy. The judge sentenced Derek to 25 years in prison without possibility of parole for 15 years. The judge also ordered Derek to pay restitution. Every penny he stole from me, plus damages, plus interest, $270,000 total. The property deed was transferred back to my name. The insurance company processed my claim for the house fire and paid it out directly to me. Everything Derek had stolen was returned. Amanda filed for divorce 2 weeks after the trial. She came to see me at the hotel where I was staying. Patricia had helped me find a small, extended stay place until I could figure out permanent housing. Robin, I had no idea, Amanda said, crying. I knew Derek could be cold sometimes, but I never imagined he could do something like this. I should have seen it. I should have protected you. I took her hand. You didn't know. He fooled all of us. Tyler and Brianna want to see you. They're devastated. They think you'll hate them for lying. I could never hate them. They were children. Derek manipulated them just like he manipulated me. A week later, Tyler and Brianna came to visit. They both apologized through their tears, saying they were sorry over and over. I hugged them and told them what they needed to hear. You were victims too. He's your father, and he used that against you. But you did the right thing in the end. You told the truth. That took courage. They started visiting every Sunday after that. We would have dinner together at a restaurant near my hotel. Slowly, we rebuilt our relationship. They told me about school, about their friends, about their plans for the future. I listened and encouraged them. They needed a grandmother, and I needed family. My old friends, Carol and Diane, reached out to me after the trial. They had been following the news coverage. Both of them apologized for not being there when I needed help. Derek had told us you didn't want visitors, Carol admitted. He said you were declining and that seeing people upset you, we believed him. I forgave them. Derek was good at lying. He fooled everyone. 6 months after the trial, I used the insurance money to build a small cottage on my property. It was simple, just 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen, but it was mine. The land where my old house had burned was cleared away, and I started fresh. I planted a garden in the front yard, roses and daisies and tulips. I hung a swing on the oak tree out back, the same tree my husband had proposed under 40 years ago. Patricia became one of my closest friends. She quit her job at Meadowbrook after the trial, said she couldn't work somewhere that had allowed what happened to me. She found a better position at a hospital across town. She came to visit every Sunday, along with Tyler and Brianna. We would have dinner together, the 4 of us, a little makeshift family built from the ashes of betrayal. I also started volunteering at an elder advocacy center downtown. I helped other seniors recognize the signs of financial abuse, manipulation, and neglect. I taught them how to protect themselves, how to speak up, how to fight back. My story was published in the local newspaper. Other elderly people reached out to me, sharing their own experiences. Some had children or relatives who were stealing from them. Some were being overmedicated or isolated. I helped as many as I could. I connected them with legal resources, with social workers, with people who could intervene. One afternoon, almost a year after Derek's conviction, I was working in my garden. The roses were blooming, red and pink and yellow. The sun was warm on my face. Patricia pulled up in her car with Tyler and Brianna. They had brought groceries for dinner. We were making spaghetti, Brianna's favorite. As I watched them walk up the path, laughing and talking, carrying bags of food, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Real, deep peace. Derek had tried to reduce me to ashes. He had tried to take everything from me, my home, my money, my freedom, my life. He had locked me away and drugged me and planned to kill me quietly in a nursing home bed. But he failed. I survived. More than that, I fought back. I found allies in Patricia and Detective Green. I got evidence. I faced him in court and watched him be held accountable for what he did. Yes, I lost my original house. Yes, I went through hell, but in the rebuilding, I found something stronger. I found my voice. I found my power. I found a purpose helping others who were suffering like I had suffered. That evening, after dinner, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Tyler and Brianna were inside washing dishes. Patricia was helping them. Their laughter drifted out through the open window. Derek tried to burn away my life. Instead, he burned away everything weak in me. The parts that stayed silent. The parts that doubted myself. The parts that thought I had to accept mistreatment from family just because they were family. All of that burned up in the fire he set. What emerged from those flames was someone stronger. I survived the fire Derek set in my bedroom that terrible night, but more importantly, I survived him. His cruelty, his manipulation, his attempts to erase me. I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. And that's my victory. Not just that he's in prison, though that matters. Not just that I got my money back, though that helps. My real victory is that he tried to make me nothing, and I refused. I rebuilt. I found joy again. I created a new life that's better than the old one in some ways, because now I know my own strength. That's what I want you to understand. If you're going through something like this, if someone is trying to control you or hurt you or take advantage of you, please know this. You are stronger than you think. Your voice matters. Your life matters. Don't stay silent because the abuser is family, or because you're afraid no one will believe you, or because you think you're too old or too weak to fight back. You're not. Speak up. Find allies. Get evidence. Fight back with everything you have. Justice can be slow. The system isn't perfect. There will be moments when you feel like giving up. But don't. Keep going. Keep fighting, because you deserve to live without fear. You deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And you deserve to see the person who hurt you be held accountable. I was 65 years old when my son tried to murder me. People might think that's too old to start over, but I did. I built a new house. I made new friends. I found new purpose. Age doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you've survived everything life has thrown at you so far. That's not weakness. That's proof of strength. So here's what I'm asking you now, everyone listening to my story. Have you or someone you love ever experienced elder abuse or manipulation by family members? What do you think needs to change in our society to better protect vulnerable older adults? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice could help someone who's suffering in silence right now. And if my story resonated with you, if it moved you or taught you something, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with others who might need to hear this message. Together, we can raise awareness about elder abuse and help more people find the strength to fight back. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring enough to hear about what happened to me. I hope my experience can serve as a beacon of hope for anyone who feels trapped or powerless. Remember, you're stronger than you know. You can survive. You can rebuild. You can triumph. And to everyone out there facing darkness right now, whether it's abuse or betrayal or injustice of any kind, I'm sending you strength. Don't give up. Your story isn't over. Like mine, your ending can be one of victory and hope. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Keep standing. You matter. You deserve better. And better is possible. May you all find the courage to speak your truth, the strength to fight for justice, and the peace that comes from knowing you survived and overcame. Thank you. And may you be blessed with safety, healing, and hope.